Aloha! Thank you for tuning in to episode number 9. My name is Christina Estrada, partner of Booyah Marketing, where we have deeper connections. Today, our honored returning guest is Suzanne Kellner Zinck, with 30 plus years of experience working in mental health, specializing in holistic healing through hypnosis, helping clients quickly address the root causes of emotional illness when traditional mental health approaches have failed. She has innovated in helping those diagnosed with anorexia, bulimia, and sexual compulsions to overcome their disorders permanently and enjoys assisting their teens and college age students who respond well to hypnosis. Public speaker, author, podcaster, a mover, and a shaker, setting souls free to live their purpose on purpose. How are you, Suzanne?
Doing very well, thanks. It's very lovely to be with you again, Christina.
Thank you. So, why do anorexias become anorexics?
Anorexics become anorexics for a few different reasons, but the largest reason that they become this way has to do with a desire to never grow up. And it's because they're really scared of becoming adults. And this comes about because many of them come from homes, although I don't know, these people who are politically correct, which is something that I don't endeavor to deal with at all. I just like to shoot from the hip and tell the truth the way it is. They come from households where they needed to be perfect in order to feel like they were getting any love or consideration in their families. Many of them were put into a lot of activities. Some of them they were not really interested in doing. Supposed to get straight A's even in advanced placements.
Mm.
And the list goes on and on and on. And it's just a very high barrier for any human being to be able to deal with. So these individuals feel a total lack of control over their lives. So the one thing they can control is the amount of food that they decide to take in or not at any given time. So it becomes a control mechanism. But when you work with them for a while, what you learn is that they don't want to grow up. And we're going to talk about that. So go ahead with your next question.
So, why do anorexics celebrate losing their periods?
For that very reason, because when a woman has her period, what does that mean? It means they can get pregnant and they have babies, right? And that means you're an adult all of a sudden with other responsibilities. And if you don't feel like you want to take responsibility for your own life, why would you want to take on the responsibility of another life? And I think also sometimes it has to do with the sexual relations themselves too. All that wasn't really explicitly stated with any of my clients over the years. But when you think about it, it's really about just wanting to stay a child and not having to do what adults have to do, taking care
Wow.
of the things that we don't want to take care of, and just being able to have a child. And my guess is a lot of it comes from the fact because they've been forced to do so many things that they didn't want to do that they don't really feel like they have a childhood.
Wow. So why do bulimics become bulimic then?
I can only say from my practice, bulimics are kind of different in the sense that all of my clients that were bulimic had siblings that had problems that their parents had spent a lot of time dealing with. So they felt ignored by their parents. So they ended up
Mm.
getting into this whole food ritual with the bulimia as a result of self-soothing.
Wow. So how do you help
Now,
anorexics and bulimics heal?
well, it's pretty complicated in the sense that we're dealing with people who not only have emotional problems, but they can also have really serious physiological problems. And for that reason, when I work with anorexic clients, I don't take them unless their height is proportional to their weight, because I'm not a doctor. And if they're malnourished and it can have really bad physiological problems, that's above and beyond the scope of my care. But
Mm.
as long as they've been able to get their weight healthy enough to be proportionate, height to their size, I can work with them and help them with the emotional problems that they're having, which are causing a lot of distress. So we deal with the whole idea of all of the emotional traumas that they've gone through, because if they didn't have emotional traumas, they wouldn't have develop these problems as a way of having a defense mechanism in their subconscious mind. That's where all this stuff develops, right? In their amygdala, where their emotions reside, and in their hippocampus, where their very imperfect memories reside. And then we have to do addictions work because these disorders are very much related to addictions. And I have 4-session process that I use with hypnotic inductions based on 12-step information, though I don't really use it as a 12-step thing. It's more tailored to help addicts to let go of their addictions. It was actually written by a colleague of mine who's a neuro-linguistic programmer and a hypnotist for people who abuse alcohol and substances. And what I have done is I've cross-purposed it for this, and it works super well for anorexics, bulimics. So that's a really, really good thing. And then these folks have a really big problem with boundaries, emotional boundaries, right? They feel like they're walked over all the time. So I have to teach them how to be able to be heard and not overrun other people's patterns, because especially with the anorexics, they're perfectionists, right? They had to be perfect in order to get any kind of love and not get yelled at by, I don't know, an upset father or mother or whatever, the reason why they develop these problems. So we have to teach them how to be able to interact with people in an appropriate manner so that everyone's, shall we say, emotional space is respected. And I teach them with neuro-linguistic programming languaging in order to help them do that, which works really, really well. And then many times these clients, they haven't really developed so much into adulthood because, you know, once you have an addiction, at whatever stage that addiction becomes an addiction in life, you're stunted in your emotional growth. So I have to teach them how to really be able to relate to people age appropriately. And then I help them figure out what the hell it is that they want to do with their lives, because they're no longer obsessed with what they're eating, not eating, exercise, and all the other things that these folks do in order to deal with their weight issues as they see them. So it's actually really fascinating. It's a long process. So far as my work is concerned, you know, bulimics take about 6 months on average, and anorexic about 8 months. But the good news is that once they're done working with me, they're done. They don't have any inclination to go backwards anymore in these problems, because the average relapse rate is about 2 years. So within 2 years, they will relapse. And my clients don't. And the reason for that is because we help them create a life that they love more than being ill. And that's actually the bottom line in terms of helping anyone heal and overcome anything, especially when they have an identity that is so closely aligned with these eating disorders as these folks have. Got to cut that loose and give them a new identity based on what they want to do in their lives going forward, which could be loving themselves. I always joke with them, they didn't come out of their mom's vagina hating themselves. So therefore, the great news is that they can learn how to love themselves again. And then from there, be able to have healthy relationship with other people in their lives, get into careers that they're actually interested in doing, that they find meaningful. Hobbies, you know, my anorexic kids, many of them have been sick for so long, they don't even know what hobbies are. So I have to figure out what they enjoy doing. And luckily I can use my hypnosis techniques in order to help them figure all that stuff out. So it's pretty long, it's pretty involved, but when you're able to talk to these folks a few years later and they're still doing really well, they're in healthy relationships, and they're happy, normal people, you have to wonder what's wrong with the conventional mental health system that doesn't allow them to do that, because they just want to manage symptoms, drugs for anxiety and depression, because a lot of times these folks have those problems, and keep them seeing them forever and ever and ever. It's ridiculous. Everyone deserves to have a life away from psychiatric and psychological care. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here to give them, so long as their disorders enable us to make that a possibility for them. Because, you know, as a hypnotist NLP person, I really can't help people full-blown personality disorders overcome personality disorders. Although I did help one guy who thought he was a narcissist overcome other issues, and he's doing really great even now, 7 years later. He just
Wow.
got back in touch with me not that long ago to let me know that everything was going well, and he had dropped 80 pounds, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
And got all of his objectives met. That was a guy, 72, and I work with him. So what did I say? 78, 79 now. Pretty amazing. So that just
Did you
lets you
say
know it doesn't matter how
79?
old you are. Yeah, 79 now. It just lets you know it doesn't really matter how old you are. You can help people to overcome anything so long as they have a desire to do so. So that's also an important thing for your listeners to No.
Absolutely. So you have a membership, right, Suzanne? Where you
Yes.
can get all your questions answered, and it's for an hour. It's on Fridays at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern, and you'll get her undivided attention regarding hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, mental health medication, and anything else to interest you in regarding health and well-being. And we'll definitely put that in the description box down below. And thank you again, Suzanne, for being on. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. So please click and subscribe, the notification thumbs up, Booyah Marketing, a hooey ho, until we meet again.